Arc Lightning is one of Path of Exile's most beginner-friendly skills that doesn't require much experience or investment to be played properly. You can easily achieve the same damage as a top-tier build with a handful of unique items. In the first half of today's video, I will teach you how to league start with Arc Lightning by showing you how to gradually develop your passive tree and gem configuration. Then in the second half, you'll be able to min-max this build with the help of some cheap unique items and passive tree adjustments. So let us begin. At the start, you will be given the choice to play Arc as either Witch ascended into an Elementalist or Templar ascended into a Hierophant. The Elementalist offers more damage with its Ascendancy, while Hierophant trades some of that for more tankiness by better utilizing mana as a second life pool. At the end of the day, both are similar in performance and are made for people who likes to blast content as quickly as possible. For this video, we are going to focus on Elementalist. However, note that our passive tree and item recommendations are going to be the same for both. So at the start of Act 1, there is a trick I want to teach you in order to get yourself a pair of wands so good that are enough on their own to carry you all the way to yellow tier maps. Once you defeat Hillock and enter Lion's Watch, hit to Nissa and buy from her any 2 level wands ignoring the one that you already had, and keep them with you even if you find better ones later down the line. Why? One of the strongest spell modifiers that can be rolled on wands happen to have a very low item level requirement, and that mod is +1 to level of all specific spell gem category. But hold on, isn't that mod like super rare? Well, when you are crafting a very low item level wand, there are very few mods that you can roll, and that reduces the competition between the remaining mods, and hence, you can easily hit the +1 gem modifiers in just a couple of rolls. As a result, every time you find an alteration orb while playing, feel free to use it on one of your low level wands until you hit the +1 modifier we are looking for. In this case, it's +1 to the level of all lightning spell skill gems. Hitting it on both wands will take you around 60 alteration orbs, but once you are done with them, you are basically good to go in terms of damage for the remainder of the campaign. Alright, now let's take a look at our passive tree. The Witch starting location just happened to be closer to some powerful lightning and spellcaster nodes compared to the Templar. First, we start by allocating the smallest spell damage nodes all the way to Arcanist Dominion and Lightning Walker. Then we take the nearby life and mana nodes. Next, we expand into the top side of the tree via nearby crit nodes. We take a jewel socket and some more life nodes along the way, including the +50 to maximum life mastery. From here, we allocate the left part of the large lightning wheel at the very top of the passive tree, ending with Heart of Thunder. This one will provide us with lots of lightning damage. In addition, we also take the lightning mastery, which allows chaining non-projectile lightning skills to chain one additional time. In addition, we have allocated the nearby mana wheel, which scales our spell damage based on our maximum mana. At this point, most of you would have finished the first lab already, and as such we are going to allocate Mastermind of Discord as our first Ascendancy node. It increases the amount of resistances reduced by our exposures by another 25%. It also grants us 1% mana regen whenever we inflict exposure. Alright, at this stage you should at least have access to a 4-link. For this one you want to have the following gems: Arc Lightning, added lightning damage, increased critical strike support, and increased critical damage. Now before you ask, why are we investing into critical modifiers that early? Doesn't Control Destruction and Elemental Focus provide more damage? Well, critical strikes have 100% chance to inflict shock with lightning damage, and that's 50% more damage applied to enemies while leveling. Now it's because of that why lightning skills benefit from critical modifiers from as early as Act 2 compared to other elements. At this stage you can use the occasional Orb of Alchemy and Chaos you find to get yourself some good leveling items like Gold Rime. This helm helps you by capping your elemental resistances and it has no level requirements. We also have Praxis Ring. This one solves all of your mana issues and causes some of the damage you take to be regained back as mana. Alright, now that we have gained some more levels, it's time to go back and further improve our passive tree. The next stage is to go to the left side of it and pick up some useful nodes along the way like the nearby life and mana regen cluster. We also take a jewel socket, and most importantly, mind over matter. This keystone causes 40% of all damage you take to be taken from mana before life. This effectively makes you immune to being one-shotted, and in most cases, you won't die as long as you have mana remaining. After doing the second lab, we are going to allocate Heart of Destruction on our Ascendancy. This node grants us 30% more elemental damage for 4 seconds if we have hit a unique enemy recently. Its second component also increases your area of effect by 60%, however that only comes into play if you get a specific item which we are going to talk about later. Okay, now let's talk about auras you should be using. Well, we are definitely going to be starting with Wrath. After that I would say something like Herald of Thunder and then Clarity, but no, not this time. You see, at this stage, mana starts to become a second life bar for you, with Mind over Matter specifically, and you can't have that reserved. Hence, we are only going to use Wrath and link it with Eternal Blessing support. Eternal Blessing limits you to one reservation skill, but removes its reservation along the way. This is great because now we can have both Wrath and our entire mana pool protecting us from damage. We can also use something like Clear Mind Jewel, which gives us lots of spell damage and mana regeneration while no mana is reserved. Another great item to go alongside that is Edziri's Foible. It's a rather common unique item and can be bought for cheap if you are willing to compromise on some of its roles. The massive mana and mana regeneration boost you get with it makes it viable so that you can go into the Agnostic Keystone on the left side of the passive tree. This keystone actively drains 20% of your mana to restore that much life. With it, all of your life recovery issues are now fixed and you are near guaranteed not to die as long as you have mana remaining. Also, if you have stacked enough mana regen with it, then you can use Righteous Fire for a permanent 40% more spell damage boost. Aside from the Agnostic, we have allocated the rest of the Templar nodes near the left side of the tree. That includes its nearby life nodes and the Divine Judgment elemental damage wheel. After that, we path to the right side of the tree, picking up another jewel socket and many useful critical modifiers from the shadow starting location. Then we path upwards, picking yet another jewel socket, that alongside its nearby lightning crit wheel ending with high voltage. But most importantly, we end up with Doomcast, which provide us with lots of critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier for spells. At this stage you should have done your third lab and with it started mapping. And as such we are going to take Bastion of Elements to render us immune to reflected elemental damage. Finally, in order to unlock our true potential as a spellcaster, we hit for every power charge node available for us to take on the passive tree. We also allocate the nearby power charge stacking wheel that scales our damage, crit chance, and crit multiplier for every power charge we have. The remaining passive points should be invested into mana as it is a more effective life pool to protect us than actual life. Lastly, for our final lab, we take Liege of the Primordial. This node gives us a second golem and doubles the effect of all our golems. It also resummons them automatically whenever they die, making it so that you don't have to worry about micromanaging anything. Alright, that was it for our tree and Ascendancy. Feel free to check the BOB link down in the description to go over the passive tree development that we had in this video. Alright, now that we have power charges, we need to invest into power charge items. One cheap option is to go into Double Storm's Prism. This one increases your maximum power charge count by 1. It is what you will be using until you can afford 2 Void Batteries, which is the standard option for any endgame self-cast build. And to go alongside it, we have Replica Ennia's Epiphany. These pair of boots increases our movement speed, life regen, and damage by 5% for every power charge we have. It will give you performance equal to some really expensive boots once you start going above 10 power charges. Another nice unique item you can get is Replica Prism Weave. This belt adds lots of elemental damage to spells rather than attacks. Generally you won't be able to get this item starting from day 1 as it is heist only. However, let's say that you are starting the league a day later. In that case you are going to jumpstart your damage by around 50% if you get this item in something like Act 3. Finally, a really great and cheap item for literally any build is Crown of the Inward Eye Unique Helm. Aside from boosting your maximum life, mana, and energy shield, it also increases your damage based on your investment in them. This helm is so common that it can be corruption hunted, specifically for +1 to maximum power charge implicit. You can get this helm while on a budget, then try to buy the corrupted version with +1 power charge as a best in slot option later on. Now the key difference between the Elementalist Ascendancy and Hierophant is, Elementalists usually allocate Mind over Matter keystone on the passive tree and sticks with it until the very end. This allows it to use an item like Impulsa in their chest piece to boost their clearing speed with lightning explosions, as the Ascendancy increases the area of effect of these explosions. Hierophant however benefits more from Cloak of Defiance since its Ascendancy lacks the 1% mana regen that the Elementalist has. Hierophants also enjoy having an extra power charge on their Ascendancy compared to Elementalists. The only way to get an extra power charge as an Elementalist is by investing into Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh jewels, where both of them mentions the Occultist Ascendancy node Forbidden Power. But aside from that, both of them uses a simple Watcher's Eye with only 15% lightning penetration while affected by Wrath. Finally, any power charge stacking build will eventually have to invest into Militant Faith Timeless Jewel that mentions High Templar Dominus. This one will convert all nearby keystones into Inner Conviction. Inner Conviction grants you 3% more spell damage per power charge you have. Now going back into our main gem setup, once you have access to E6 link, you will be adding the following gems: Spell Echo and Power Charge on Crit. In addition, we will be swapping added lightning damage support with Awakened Lightning Penetration. Not only because it gives us lots of lightning penetration, but because it has 10% chance to apply exposure on hit. Anyway, now for our movement skill setup. Since this is a lightning build and we have many spare gem sockets, I decided to use Lightning Warp. Lightning Warp is a good movement skill, but only when supported with enough support gems. And these gems are Faster Casting, Less Duration, and Swift Affliction. Finally, we have a 4-link damage support setup. This one contains Summon Lightning Golem, Summon Ice Golem, Arcane Cloak, and Conductivity. Finally, for Bandit's Quest, we are going to help Alira as usual. As for Pantheons, we go for the Soul of the Brine King for the Majors, and the Soul of Garou Khan for the Minors. And that was it for our full league starter guide for Arc Lightning and Path of Exile. If you guys have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like, and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix, and I will see you all in the next video.